Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Looks like we have about 11 people right now. If you were on last week, you know, we had the issues with the trolls popping in and acting like idiots. I changed the setting to education for the category on, was it Tuesday, for my 127 class, and it kind of stopped the trolling. I guess they're not interested in going to educational videos. So hopefully that works here. Hey, Cassidy, how's Hawaii? Nice and warm, probably. So my plan for today is to kind of go through the exam. We'll talk about that a little bit. You guys did fairly well. Average score was an 83. And then on my end, it gives me the breakdown of how many people got what question correctly, or which question correct. So we'll kind of go through, obviously, the ones that everybody got pretty much correct. I won't waste your time with those. As far as moving forward, the schedule is still the same. So nothing has changed on that. If you look at the schedule for today, it says review the exam, and that's what we're going to be doing today. On Wednesday, the plan is for 2-7 and 3-7. That hasn't changed either. We're going to stick to the schedule, at least for the time being. If something changes, I'll definitely let you guys know through Canvas, through the announcements. But one potential issue we're going to have on Wednesday is when you guys have questions. So let's say you have a question on 2.7, number 1. Hey, Jenna. So as you guys know, the questions that show up on my end are not the same as the questions you guys get in the homework. So what I'm going to do is, for each class period, so for example, for Wednesday, I'm going to start a discussion thread on Canvas. And I'll call it whatever, 2.7, 3.7 homework questions. So if you have a question on one of those problems, so let's say you have an issue with 2.7, number 1. If you can screenshot it and post it to the discussion thread. That way, once on Wednesday we go to work it, I'll be able to see exactly what your guys' numbers are, rather than having you try to say, can we do number 1 and explain the problem to me over the comment section here. So we'll see if that works. Hopefully it does. If not, we may have to find a different way. So I don't know if any of you guys have been using WebEx. I know a lot of the rest of the campus has been using WebEx, and it seems like you guys can talk to each other and maybe even video with each other. I'm not sure. So maybe we need to switch to that. I'm open to whatever method works best for you guys. And so if that seems to be the best method, then that's the route that we'll go. But otherwise, that's kind of the plan. As far as your exam scores, I did post that I added 2 points to everybody's score because of that technical issue with number 30, I think it was. Also, if you did the insurance policy, the extra credit ahead of time for exam 2, then you should add that to your score as well. And I've added it on the main grade book. So let's say you took the test and you ended up with an 85. You get those 2 points added, that's 87. Plus, if you did the insurance policy, add another 5 there, you'd end up with really a 92 for your exam 2 score. And so that'll all be counted on my main grade book, which at the end of the semester, I can give you guys those numbers, but I won't keep updating them as we go. It'll just get real crazy trying to keep changing numbers all over the place. So before we get going on that, any questions or anything you guys have in general as far as scheduling, what to expect for Wednesday, any of that kind of stuff? And again, remember, just if you type 3 exclamation points, or if you do that, then go ahead and type your question. That way I know that you're asking me a question and I shouldn't move on because again, I might have something popping up here. So, all right, no questions. So let's go through the quiz real quickly, well, as quickly as we need to. Are you guys able to access your quiz again? Like, can you pull it back up and see what the problems are? That way we're kind of on the same page. If you guys can pull up Canvas and then see if you go back to assignments, will it show you what, I know you can't do the questions anymore, but will it at least pull the questions up for you? Okay, you can't see them. All right, so then let me talk with OIT and see if there's maybe a setting. All right, okay, so no. All right, I will definitely look into that. So I want to make sure, ideally, I want you guys to be able to go back and look at them even after the due date has passed. So I will talk to OIT after my classes today. They're hidden, okay. So I'll check with them, but so I'll kind of go through these concept ones a little bit quickly then. So the first one, about 64% got it right. It was, which of the following are the concerns for the domains? And that is there an even radical and is there a denominator? And so I did post the discussion thread asking you guys for some feedback on this. And I got a couple of responses and I appreciate that, but I'll ask here as well. Did these concept questions, did it help you guys overall because it reinforced what you were supposed to do on a problem, or was it more just other stuff you had to worry about and it didn't really help you overall? And again, if it didn't help you, let me know. I'm trying to, again, fine tune this class to, you know, if these helped you, I'll probably have a few more of these or new ones of these on exam 3, again, to reinforce some of these new concepts, like what is it you're supposed to be looking for? Any feedback? Yes. Okay, good, thanks. Hopefully they were somewhat easy points too, so okay, it helped. So let me talk a little bit about exam 3 as well. Okay, perfect. So I love seeing that. So I'll definitely include some more on exam 3. Exam 3, a couple changes about it. So you guys will still have the 24-hour time period to do it. However, you're only going to get one attempt, but it's not going to be timed. And so you'll have the whole 24 hours to do it. So I had a couple issues with students where the system kicked them out, or they tried to submit it and then time ran out on them. So I don't want that to be an issue. I don't want you guys to be up against the clock necessarily. So I'm not going to set a time limit on exam 3. However, you will only get one chance at it. And I know you guys improved your scores the second time through. I'll also write the questions a little bit differently so that we don't have some of the formatting issues and things like that. For example, if you have to solve a quadratic equation, I will probably have you guys use a calculator, and I'll just have you put your answer into 2 decimal places, something like that. That way we're not worried about, well, should I have this in there? Should I have not? And I'll be a little bit more careful with the description of the answers. Don't put in a $sign or don't put in a parenthesis, things like that, just to make sure you don't get tripped up on the formatting of it. But again, first time for me, first time for you guys. I'll try to get better at writing these questions so that the formatting doesn't even become an issue anymore. So, all right, that was that one. So if we have an even root, what do? Set the radicand greater than or equal to 0. 89% got that. That's good. If we have a denominator, how do we find the domain? Make sure if the domain is all the values except for the ones that make the denominator 0. 92% of you guys got that. That's good. If we have a quadratic function, what's its domain? All real numbers. And so 86% got that right, which sounds like a good number, but it's actually a little bit scary. 4 people had set it equal to 0. 1 person had set it greater than or equal to 0. So again, a quadratic would be something like x squared plus 2x plus 1. And on this, any value is fine. We don't have any restrictions. So all real numbers would be our answer for that. So just be careful on that. If you're finding domain for a quadratic, it's all real numbers. If possible, how can we add or subtract radicals? 89% got this right. They have to have the same root. They have to have the same radicand. Often as an expression have four terms, how should we factor it? 94% got this right, factor by grouping. So that's good. Hopefully that's kind of stuck in your head now. The minus sign between, one possibility, difference of squares. Again, 94% got that right. Only 2 missed it, so good on that. Expanding a binomial, how many terms will we have? Plus 1. 92% got that right. What methods can we use? So 81% had this correct. We can either just multiply it out, we can use binomial theorem, we can use Pascal's triangle, any of those 3 methods. And again, I'm going through these kind of quickly, so if you did miss one of these questions and you're not sure about it, just shoot me an email after the class period here. I can get back to you specifically what answers we were looking for there. But again, in these concept questions, you guys did pretty well overall. If we expand a binomial, what do we know about the exponents on A and B? Their sum is equal to n. Again, 83% got that right. Can the binomial coefficient ever be 0? The answer is no. So 86% got that right. The other 4, what is it, five students? The answer is no. So your binomial coefficient can never be equal to 0. So be careful with that. How do we rationalize the denominator? Multiply numerator and denominator by conjugate. 92% got that, good. When solving a quotient inequality, what must be true? One side has to be 0 to begin with. 94% got that, so good. Slope about parallel lines, they're the same. 92% got that. Slope about perpendicular lines, they're the negative reciprocal of each other. So 89% got that. 6 people missed that. So just be careful with that. Equation of a circle, how do we get it in standard form? Complete the square. 94% got that right. Which of the following are elementary row operations? So 81% only got this correct. So we can do one of 3 things. Either multiply a row by a non-zero constant, we can add a multiple of one row to another, and we can switch any rows. And that was it. So that was the end of the concept questions. Next question. 97% got this right. This was our first calculation problem. It was a multiple choice. And for this one, it was the radical addition and subtraction. So square root of 32 minus square root of 18. And so, again, 97% got this right. Only one person got it wrong. If you did get this wrong, if you weren't sure how to do this, send me an email. We have to do what? Have to get the same radicand, do that by using our radical rules and simplify from there. So your answer should have been square root of 2. So if you want to go back and work these, so maybe you want to do that. I will write down the problems. I'll give you the correct answer. That way, if you want to use them for review for exam 3 or for the final exam, you'll still have it. So it should be square root of 32 minus square root of 18. And your answer should be square root of 2. Yeah, that's good. I'll do that for now until I confirm with OIT if they can give you guys access to at least look at it. All right, the next question. And again, if you have to go back, I will leave these on YouTube here. So the next one was rationalizing the denominator and simplify. 100% got this right. So congratulations, you guys. Well done. So the question was 6 over 2 minus square root of 2. And it doesn't show me the answer, I believe. What was the answer here now? I think it was, oh man. Well, let's do it. So we have to do what? Multiply by the conjugate. So again, you guys got this all correct. I just want to go through it to make sure that if you're going back to use it as review later, I give you the right answer. So we have what? 6 times 2 plus root 2. All over, FOIL this, you get 4 minus 2. So this is 6, 2 plus square root of 2 over 2. The 2 cancels, gives you 3. Distribute the 3, you get 6 plus 3 times square root of 2. So There you go. You got that one. Again, everybody got that right on the test, but I want you to have it for review if you need it. Your composite functions, 97% got the first one, 100% got the second one right. I'm not really going to go through those. It's just a matter of plugging in the numbers, simplifying the function. Which of the following is a factor of, and I gave you an expression. And 94% got this right. So again, really good. Really proud of you guys for this one. So you have x to the third minus 3x squared minus 4x plus 12. So this is 4 terms. This is your factor by grouping. What do? You take out an x squared. You're left with x minus 3. Take out a negative 4 because we want to end up with x minus 3. So this leaves us with x minus 3 times x squared minus 4, 2 terms with a minus sign and an x squared. That's our difference of squares. So x plus 2, x minus 2. So if you're asked to factor this whole thing, this is what it would factor into. You're asked which of the following is a factor of it. And so the answer of the ones provided was just your x minus 2. It was your check all that apply, and that was the only one that would have worked. Any questions so far? Any issues? I don't see any, so I'm just going to keep moving along here. Find the center and radius of the center with the equation. So again, if you guys want this for review again later, you have x squared plus y squared minus 4y minus 16 is 0. And when you go through this, your center ends up being 0, 2. And the radius ends up as, what do I have here? Now what do we got? 16. I guess, is that 3 root 2 maybe? 16 or 20, no, 2 root 5. So I think it ends up square root of 20. So 2 times the square root of 5. What you should get there. Yeah. Again, 97% got the center right. Oh, no, 94 got the center right. 97 got the radius. So you guys are good on that one. Compound fraction. So really good on this one. So for this one, again, just so you have it for future, if you need more practice, you have 1 over x minus 1 minus 1 over x plus 1, 1 over x plus 1 plus 1 over x minus 1. So regardless of which way you went on this one, your answer should have been 1 over x. So again, 97% got this right. That's really good. I'm giving you guys these so that if for some reason OIT doesn't give you access to the problems later, at least you can still work them if need be. All right, which one is this? I don't know. It's not giving me the numbers. But it is a quadratic, solving a quadratic. So this one I think was more an issue with how to enter the answer in, maybe, because I did get a bunch of emails of people saying, you know, here's my answer. I think it's right. I'm putting it in. It's not taking it. What's happening? So you were supposed to solve x squared plus 2x plus 1 is 0. And so you can't factor this. The only thing you can do is quadratic formula. And when you do that, you end up with -1 plus or minus the square root of 2. So in the future, as I said, I'll just have you give me a decimal answer for this. That way it'll take some of the formatting issues out of it. You guys are at home. So I will tell, obviously you guys get to use a cheat sheet during your exams. That hasn't changed. For the final exam, You know, especially, so the final will be similar to your exam 3. You'll have one attempt, but there won't be a time limit on it. So there's no way to really say, well, geez, you know, no using your book or notes, because how do we know? Hey, John. So if you are, again, you know, who's to say you're not at home using a calculator? So we're just going to make the questions to where you just have, if you want to use a calculator, that's fine. And some of them you will be required to use a calculator. So for example, in exam 3, if I give you a problem like this would be a calculator problem. And you would give your answer to say do 2 decimal places. The other thing to be careful with, and part of the issue I think with people putting in their answers, is that you have to read the problem with how it wants the answers put in, much like WebAssign. So WebAssign will give you answer boxes where it says, you know, enter your smallest value first. That's what this problem said. It said enter your smallest value first. So the first one would have been -1 minus, and then with the formatting, SQRT2. And the second box would be -1 plus SQRT2. And that's why I gave you guys 2 chances on this. So if something like this was an issue, you could email me. You could email me during the test. I had a couple people do that. The rest of you sent me an email after the fact saying, why did I get this one wrong? I don't understand. And then I went in and looked, and you had the right answer, but you had these in the wrong boxes. And at that point, it's too late. So you've already submitted it. The test has already been totaled. So for exam 3, for the final as well, I suppose, if you are going to be entering an answer and you're not sure, is this formatted right? Is this how he wants it? Do I have it in the right order? Take a screenshot and send it to me before you hit submit. Because as soon as you hit submit, it's too late. You know, the question's already been tallied up. So that's the answer for this one. -1 plus or minus square root of 2. This is how you would have needed to enter it into the system to get full credit. The next one, parallel perpendicular line. So the question you wanted perpendicular to the line 2x minus y plus 3 is 0. So let's see the scores here. So 86, about 72. So let's go through this one. The first question asks, what's the slope of the given line of this guy? So we have to get y by itself. So if we move everything over, so subtract 2x, subtract 3, you get -y is minus 2x minus 3. Divide everything by -1. You get y is equal to 2x plus 3. The slope of this line is what? It's just 2. That's it, not 2x. A lot of you got this wrong, not a lot, 5. 5 got it wrong because you put 2x was the slope. But the slope is not the 2x. The slope is just the number in front of the x. So if the slope is 2, then the slope of the perpendicular line is the negative reciprocal. So -1/2. So then we're going through the point 1, -1. So we have what? Y minus a -1 is the slope, -1/2, x minus 1. So y plus, so first answer is this, 2. Second answer, what's slope of the perpendicular line? -1/2. And then lastly, what's the equation of the line, the perpendicular line? In y equals mx plus b form. So also look at how it's asking you to format it. So distribute the -1/2, you get -1/2 x plus 1/2. Subtract 1, you get y is -1/2 x minus 1/2. So that would have been the third answer for that problem. There was 3 parts. First one, slope of the given line, 2. Slope of the perpendicular line, -½ slope of the equation of the line perpendicular is -½ x minus 1/2. Any questions on that before I move on? Okay. Next one is the difference quotient. Okay on this, 72%. Although 10 people got this wrong. So let's go through this real quick. So the function that we're given is 4 minus 3x. So the first box was what's f of a plus h. So that means what? That means we plug a plus h in anywhere that we have an x. So 4 minus 3 times a plus h. Simplify this, we get 4 minus 3a minus 3h. That's f of a plus h. Second part was asking us what's f of a. So we just plug in an a there, so we get 4 minus 3a. And then lastly, what is the difference quotient? So it's what? It's f of a plus h. So the first part we had minus f of a all over h. So if we've done this right, these pieces should cancel out. And all we have left are pieces in the f of a plus h that have an h in them. So we get -3h over h. Cancel out the h's, so our answer is just -3. So this is the first answer, what's f of a plus h? Second answer, what's f of a? Third answer, what's the difference quotient? -3. Yeah, so that's good on that one. So any questions on that one? Again, 72%. Or no, sorry, 78% were able to get this. So anybody didn't get it, has any questions, how to do it? No? Okay. You guys are quiet today, huh, for a Monday? Or just no questions? The system of three equations. So 92% had this right. So hopefully you did it and just didn't enter it on a matrix calculator on your computer somewhere. But if you did do this and you got it, that's really good. Let me give you guys what the system was. So you had 2x plus 2y minus 3z is equal to -20. X minus y minus 2z is -6. And 3x plus y minus z is -10. So when you work through this, your answer for x should have been -1. Your answer for y should have been -3. And your answer for z should have been +4. I did this problem right, but you use substitution. Can you do it? Sure, okay. All right. So again, one of our elementary row operations is what? We can switch rows. So I'm going to write the matrix, and I'm just going to switch row 1 and 2 when I put it into the matrix form, so I don't have to write it and then rewrite it again. So this row would be what? 1, -1, -2, -6. And then put this row second. So 2, 2, -3, -20. And then 3, 1, -1. And -10. So I'm going to do what? I want to get a 0 in this bottom corner, so I have row 1 times negative 2 plus row 2 gives me a new row 2. Multiply this row by negative 2. So rewrite the first row, 1, negative 2, negative 6. So then we have what? Negative 2 plus 2, 0. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Minus 3 is 1. And positive 12 minus 20 is negative 8. And how about the last row? So for that one, we want to do row 1 times a negative 3 plus row 3 gives me a new row 3. And again, if you guys have questions, just hit that exclamation point so I know to stop and check what you're writing. Times negative 3. Negative 3 plus 3, 0. Negative 3 times negative 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6, minus 1 is 5. And positive 18 minus 10 is positive 8. So now, last but not least, I want to get a 0 down here. Well, these are nice because they match up. So if there was a 1 here, that would be great. But I don't have a 1. I don't want to divide all this by 4 because then I'm dealing with a fraction. But I don't really have to worry about that. Why? Because if I do row 2 times negative 1 plus row 3 to give me a new row 3, that's going to put a 0 here. So that's okay. Is that red? Okay. Does the red show up okay? Almost looks like I shouldn't be using the red marker. So leave the first 2 rows alone. 1, negative 2, negative 6, 0, 4, 1, negative 8. And now do my math here. So multiply this by negative 1. That doesn't show very good either, so let me just use black. So negative 1 times 0 is 0, plus 0 is 0. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0. Negative 1 plus 5 is 4. And negative 1 times negative 8 is positive 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. Shows up okay. All right, thanks, Taylor. So this last row tells me what? 4z is equal to 16. Divide both sides by 4. Z is equal to 4. Which is what we had as our answer. And then from there, then you can just back substitute. Red marker looks a bit faded, but it shows up. Okay. Yeah, so I'll maybe stick with the black and blues. At least I want you guys to be able to see it okay. So after that, then you can just back substitute. Plug Z is 4 into this row, solve for Y, then plug that back in, solve for X. So any other questions on that one before I move on? Okay. Next question. Yes, this was the troublemaker, number 30. Was it 30? Yeah, I think 30. The quotient inequality. So, yep, you're welcome. So I think you guys were doing this right. It was just the problem itself. And I don't know why it wasn't allowing me to fix it. Maybe because a couple people had already taken the test. It wouldn't let me go in and change it. I'm not sure. But again, I'll make sure that for the future exams, this isn't an issue. But we have what? We have 2x plus 1 over x minus 2 is less than or equal to 1. So first thing, this 1 can't be here. Move it over. And then change it so it has the same denominator. So 2x plus 1 over x minus 2 minus x minus 2 over x minus 2. So you get what? 2x minus x is just x. 1 minus a negative 2 is like 1 plus 2. So that's 3. All over x minus 2 is less than or equal to 0. So now we need to figure out the breakpoints for the table or our number line. So we do what? X plus 3 is 0. X minus 2 is 0. So x is negative 3 and x is 2. So on the test, all I wanted in those first boxes were the breakpoints. So the first box should have just been negative 3. The second box should have just been 2. Not the bracket, parentheses, any of that. It was just, what are those numbers? Negative 3 and 2. So again, if I put something like this on a future test, I'll make sure to make it a little more clear what exactly I want in that box. Now, as far as the answer, which you guys weren't allowed to enter in, I don't know why I wasn't allowing that, but if we create our table with our intervals or our number line, we have negative infinity to negative 3 to 2 to infinity. If I choose some test points, let's say negative 5, 0, and 5. I'm using this guy down here. This is the only one I'm worried about now. If I plug in negative 5, I get what? I get a negative number in the numerator, negative number in the denominator. Negative divided by negative is positive. If I plug in 0, 0 plus 3, that's a positive number in the numerator. 0 minus 2, that's a negative number in the denominator. Positive divided by negative is negative. And plug in 5, you get positive over a positive, which is positive. So that's the signs of my different intervals. I want it where it's less than or equal to 0, which would be the negative interval, which is here, which is negative 3 to 2. And then we need to test the breakpoints. So if I plug in negative 3, what happens? I get 0 is less than or equal to 0. That's true. That gets a bracket. And can I use 2? Well, no, because that would make my denominator negative. So that gets a parenthesis. So that would be your final answer. And again, I think some of the confusion is in the first box, you guys are putting bracket negative 3, second box 2 parenthesis. And again, just not a good question, but I'll make sure to try to fix that in the future. So. All right, any questions on that one before we move on? Other than that, I think you guys did decent because, let's see what we got here. Yeah, so you guys did all right. It was just I think the formatting of it more than anything. 31, the domain problem. You guys did really well on this one, so I guarantee you that makes me super happy. So this was a 3-part problem. The first one, and again, this is, so if you want to, why is it negative again? Why is it negative? Because we're looking for where this ratio is less than or equal to 0. So we want it where the interval is negative. So we choose that interval there. Any other questions before I move on? Okay. All right, so first part was what's the domain of this? Well, it's a radical, so it's where x minus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. So x is greater than or equal to 3, which in interval notation is 3 to infinity. So 92% of you got that right. Yep, you're welcome. Was good on that one, but didn't understand formatting question 30. Yeah, so yeah, the formatting, the problem was an issue. But again, hopefully I fix that in the future. So, okay, so 92% got that, 81 got the next one, which is 1 over x squared minus 7x minus 8. So for this one, the concern is when is this 0? So if I factor this, this factors into x minus 8, x plus 1. Yeah. So this is when x is equal to 8, when x is equal to negative 1. Any other value is fine except for these two. So if I draw that on a number line, negative 1 and 8, open circles. So in notation, it's negative infinity up to negative 1, union negative 1 to 8, union 8 to infinity. So as I said, 81% got that, and then 86 actually, so the number went up, which is interesting because you didn't get the second part, but you got the entire answer. So the question is then the combination of these two. So it's just the overlap of the number lines, so negative 1 to 8, and then 3 up to infinity. So the answer would be what? 3 included up to 8, which is not included, union 8 up to infinity. So that would be the answer for that one. Any questions on any of those three before I move on? Again, if so, just give me the 3 exclamation points and I'll hold on. Okay. And last but not least, the investment problem. So only 61% on this one. A little bit of trouble still. So we have an investor invest $1,000. Part is at 5%. And part at 10%. How much should be invested at 5%? So total interest in the first year is $80. Yep. So again, let's use the boxes. That'll help us build the table. So we have investment number 1 here. We have investment number 2 here. We combine them to get our total investment at the end. So the first one is what? Well, how much of it? We don't know. So let's call that X. That's at 5%. It's getting combined with what? Well, it's getting combined with this one that's 10%, but we don't know how much that one is either. So we'll call that Y. So this is a problem that's going to have 2 variables. And then what do we know at the end? Well, we know that the total investment is $1,000. We don't know what interest rate we're going to be getting, but what we do know is that the total interest is going to be $80. So then if I try to build my, or if I do build my table off of this information, we have the amount, we have our percent, we have the interest. So the first one is X at 5%, which is 0.05. Multiply everything across. Second one is amount Y at 0.10%, so 0.1. This is 0.1Y. And the last row is 1,000. I don't care what the percent is because I already know that this value, the total interest, is going to be 80. So that's my table. I have 2 unknowns. So I need 2 equations here. So I have X plus Y is 1,000 from the first column, and 0.05X plus 0.1y is equal to 80. So you have a couple ways you can go about this. You can do substitution. If you want to solve the first one for x or y, we can also do elimination. So if I multiply the whole first row by negative 0.1, then we get what? You get negative 0.1x minus 0.1y is equal to 0.1 is what? It's like 1/10. So it's moving the decimal one place to the left. So this becomes minus 100. And again, you guys can use your calculator. So if you just want to do that with a calculator, that's fine. And the second row stays the same. So 0.05x plus 0.1y is 80. These guys cancel out. Negative 100 plus an 80 is minus 20. And then over here, this is like 0.10. So negative 0.10 minus 0.05 just gives us negative 0.05. And again, if you have your calculator, just divide everything by 0.05. Tells us that x is equal to 400. Now I solved for x, which is what this question wanted. How much was supposed to be invested at 5%? So that's my answer there. However, if you would have solved for y, if you would have eliminated the x first, you would have ended up with 600. That's not the right answer because the question was not asking how much is invested at 10%. The question is how much is invested at 5%. So again, just be careful on these questions. Make sure you're filling in the right information into the box. And that was it. So that was the end of the test. So again, any questions you guys have as far as Wednesday, we'll meet online here at 1 o'clock. We'll kind of get back into it. It'll be our first day of class, so to speak, as opposed to these review days that we've been doing. But yeah, on Canvas, I will post a discussion thread. If there's any questions in the homework that you want to see on Wednesday, just post a screenshot so that I know what your numbers are so that we can work them all together properly. Other than that, if you guys don't have any questions, I'll let you guys log off and we will see you guys on Wednesday. So have a good night. Last one was it? Make sure you didn't go. Okay. Yeah, it's two variables, one variable. Yeah. All right, thank you guys. Yep. Bye. See you guys. Have a good night.